Hey Clashers, with the last maintenance break, we have balance changes which are changing everything in the clan capital. And yes, I mean that. They're changing everything. We're having balance changes for the defenses, we're having balance changes for the offensive troops and the offensive spells. All of that in one huge maintenance break. Let's start things off with the spells and with the changes right there. And we're starting off with the Graveyard spell. The Graveyard spell is getting a heavy nerf yet again, which means that, well, the summoned skeleton amount is getting reduced yet again. And another nerf is happening, which means one single skeleton can no longer anymore trigger traps. That's right, you need to now to have multiple skeletons in one spot to trigger traps, to make sure that you can't really place the spell somewhere in the middle of the base inside all of the damage and you just easily trigger traps. That's no longer possible. The lightning spell is going to be buffed though on the other side, and well, this means now for the maxed out guard post with the super dragons, for example, you need now only 3 lightnings instead of 4, which is quite a nice change. The next one is going to be the frost spell. It's going to have the housing space decreased from 4 to 3. The strength is staying the same. Let's move on now with the defenses. The cannon is getting actually a nerf. And this is now as well before people are freaking out with like, oh my goodness, Graveyard spell is getting nerfed. What am I going to do now? Don't worry guys, we will see a lot of defensive nerfs, a lot of offensive nerfs to the troops and spells which were used a lot, and a lot of even more buffs to all of the troops which were not that used. So you will be fine, trust me. The next defense getting a nerf is the spear thrower. And this defense is getting hit really hard because the HP is reduced and the damage. It's like a double punch to that defense, which is kind of sad, not gonna lie. But hey, it's another nerf to a defense. And don't worry, this list goes on for quite some time. We'll go through every single change. And let me know about what change you're most happy. Let's move on with the air defense DPS getting reduced as well. And this means less damage for air troops. And you will see later on, that's quite important because we have some heavy buffs to some of those air troops coming. And this can be game changing, or more like this will be game changing. But let's move on with the next defense. The next defense is going to be the bomb tower. Yet again, a damage nerf to all of those different levels. I will always show you, as you already noticed, the stats on the screen, so I don't have to read them out all one by one, because I feel like it's always easier to visualize, just like seeing the stats, and I think that should be easier to understand. A quick side note though, those attacks which you see in the background are from our last raid weekend, so those are not the new stats, okay? Really important. Let's move on though with the next defense. The multi-mortar is getting a DPS nerf as well. And this is kind of happening to most of those defenses. Overall, Supercell really heavily is trying to reduce the damage from especially maxed out villages, which is not too bad. I mean, I don't mind that overall. I have no clue yet where this is leading, but I guess after the update, like more like after the maintenance, because all of this is happening in maintenance, time will tell if that is good or a bad thing. The rapid rockets will be nerfed as well. Kind of the same story as all of the other defenses, which means less DPS for them. And this just means we move on as we have the rapid rockets. What are some other rockets which we have in a village in a lot of districts, which is super annoying, dealing a lot of splash? You got it? That's right, the rocket artillery. As well, nerfs. That's great. I mean, this defense is just super annoying to face, so I appreciate the nerf right there quite a bit. So DPS is going down by 20 on those different levels, and this means there's only a couple of key defenses left, and all of them will be nerfed. But let's just move on with the next one, which is the Inferno Tower. That's right, the Inferno Tower is getting a damage reduction as well. As I said, mainly for the higher level, as this is really the key thing, because what Supercell tries to accomplish here is that all of those engineered clans or clan capitals are not having an advantage anymore in the trophy pushing compared to maxed out clan capitals, because being maxed out should be an advantage, right? Like, this is kind of how Supercell makes money, and that's why they're going to nerf yet another key defense. The blast bow is getting nerfed as well. And with that being said, there's only one last thing we have to talk about when we're talking about the defense, and that is the defensive super dragon. That's right, this thing is getting nerfed as well. But what exactly is going to be changed? So pretty much what is going to be changed and makes it easier for you is, if you want to distract it, it's now easier because the retargeting of the Super Dragon is taking 1 second longer, which is quite a big difference. You will see. I mean, you can notice that quite a bit when distracting it with like Super Barbarians or a Super Giant, for example. But now let's move on to the troops. And as I said already, all the troops which are getting used a lot, getting nerfs, and all of the troops which are not getting used that much, getting a buff. So Sneaky Archer, for example, is getting used quite a bit. It's a pretty no-brain troop. No offense to anyone using it. I was using it as well, right? So, but it's getting nerfed. Overall, the damage is getting reduced. But don't worry, we have now all of the other troops getting buffed. And we're starting things off with the Super Barbarians. This is kind of surprising me because the Super Barbarians were used anyways. I mean, Super Barbarians already are one of the, if not the strongest supportive troop in the game. They're incredibly good with their stats and only 5 housing space. So I'm not sure if that buff was needed, but I guess we just take it. HP increased for them. It is what it is. The next troop, though, has not been used that much, I think, overall. But it's a great distraction troop, and we're talking about the Super Giant. Some hit points more. I mean, 200 hit points, you don't mind that, right? And it's, again, mainly for the higher level. Because, as I said, Supercell wants to make sure that higher upgraded level districts or clan capitals in general have an advantage over the engineered clan capitals, which are right now ruling the top legend leaderboards, which is kind of feels wrong, right? Like a clan is having an advantage with like less upgrades and stuff. It feels a bit, I don't know, it just feels not right. The next troop already on the list, which you have seen, is the Power P.E.K.K.A. getting buffed as well. Some more hit points, you just take it. It's really nice to have. But this next troop is going to be a huge game changer. I believe it might be the new go-to strategy, kind of removing, or not removing, but replacing the Graveyard and Super Hawk Rider combination, which are Super Dragons, but an offense, because 700 hit points on the max level, you will notice that. I mean, you will notice that for sure. So I feel like with Rage Towers and stuff, Rages on offense would be kind of quite nice. Next one, Inferno Dragon is going to be buffed as well. Having a bit longer range is kind of like a nice to have thing for sure for them. And then the next troop, which is getting a buff, is kind of the siege cards, which were they kind of reworked the nerf which they did earlier in the clan capital, which means that targeting a new troop is now quicker, which is kind of nice to have. I mean, they're now similar to how they were when they were released. The last troop, which is getting a buff, I'm kind of excited about because I think it's just iconic for this specific village. It is the Mountain Golem. It's getting a splash damage buff, and it is getting a movement speed buff, which I think is kind of cool. I'm not sure yet how viable it is, but it's just really nice that it's getting a buff. And there's one change for the home village as well. That's right, the Grand Warden is now less likely to follow the riders of Super Hawk Riders when they're jumping off the Hawks. Let's hope that's going to change something and make the Warden a little bit smarter, but let's see if that's actually the case. Let me know which change you're most excited about, and well, I will for sure give you some guides as soon as the new raid weekend starts, so you know what strategies you guys should use. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys back tomorrow with the next video. Until then, see ya and bye bye.